This is Midday Mobile with Sean Sullivan on FM Talk 106.5.
Hey, welcome back to Time for a Checkup on Midday Mobile. Glad to have you all along. And good to get a new guest in studio. And this is something that's so important, I think, anytime, let alone with school starting soon. Joined by Chief Medical Officer at AltaPointe, Dr. Sandra Parker, and also your title with the University of South Alabama as well.
Yes, I'm the chair of the Department of Psychiatry at the University of South Alabama College of Medicine.
All right. So there's a lot to talk about, but I know today we're talking about resilience in kids.
Yes.
And so, that term, it's funny because on the show, sometimes I'm like, everything's resilient now. Everything's resilience. But what does that mean for children to you? When you say resilience in our children, what's that mean?
I'm very glad you asked that because that's the most important part of this is what do we mean by that and how do we develop in our kids? And resiliency is the ability to overcome a serious hardship. It's being able to deal with challenges and still keeping your happy face on, being able to overcome them, keep your head up. Know that whatever you face, you can overcome that and move forward.
Okay. So, but you said, put on that face. Is that just the outward look, right? Because I tell my children things aren't always great. Things will upset you. Is that resilience just outward, or how do they deal with that inside? Whether they're putting on a happy face, what about inside? Well,
I'm glad you said that because bad things will happen to people and sad things, and we should give our children and ourselves some time to feel bad about that and acknowledge that we had an outcome that is disappointing and makes us sad. But many studies show and brain scans show that if we tell ourselves that we are happy and we are okay, then our brain actually transforms itself into a positive thinking brain. So just like an antidepressant works for depression by changing your neurotransmitters, so does thinking positive thoughts. So of course, when you have something bad happen, let yourself be in that moment and grieve and be sad, but then always go back to okay, that happened. I'm okay. I've been through, bad things before. I can overcome that. I'm going to move forward. And then your brain naturally does make a positive change.
Okay. So help parents, help us out there with how we direct that behavior in our children, because, just telling them, well, quit doing that, which is like the regular, parent thing. Whatever you do, quit doing that. That doesn't always work.
No, that rarely works.
Right. I'm here to tell you.
I want to talk about what parents can do, but also as I'm talking about in relation to kids, and I'm talking about start early. I have a 17-month-old grandson. I want to start early with helping him develop resilience. But even as we as adults, many of us are not as resilient as we need to be. So these same principles apply to us. But, depending on who you read and what you read, there's a lot of things we can do to help develop resiliency. But I'm going to kind of mention, if we have time today, I'll mention 8 key things. But
let's do it, because
we can talk about fewer or
let's talk about these. So these are things that because I like a list. I like a list because that helps me work off things. So what do you have for us, Dr. Parker?
So the most important thing to help your child develop resilience is a connection. Now, of course, early on, the connection needs to be with at least one caring parental figure. It doesn't have to be a parent. It may be a grandmother. It may be an aunt. But some adult who gives that child complete, unconditional love.
Okay.
It needs to be a person who makes that child feel secure. The person needs to teach that child core values that child can assimilate. And of course, your child is going to kind of develop their own personality. But if we can help instill core values in that child, that will always keep that child grounded and help them feel good about themselves as they develop hard times in life. Of course, as your child gets older, we need to help them develop connections with friends. So at school, joining clubs at school, joining civic clubs, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, the dance team, exploring their talents, taking voice, being in a chorus, dance, athletic teams, whatever, but help your child develop a core group of friends that they can be connected with, and friends that even when times are bad will support your child. And parents sometimes with a shy child really may have to encourage the child to develop those friends, because some kids are shy and they don't do that on their own. Now, part of this is, your child may try out for the baseball team and maybe they don't make the baseball team. So you don't really praise your child necessarily for just making the baseball team. What I tried to, when my kids were growing up, is praising them for the effort it got, say, to make an A. I didn't just say, oh my gosh, you got an A, I'm so proud. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of the effort you put into that to get that A. So don't praise the outcome, praise the effort, because if they put in good effort, they should feel good about that regardless of the outcome. Another thing that we need to do is to help kids feel competent. They only feel competent through gaining experiences. So as they get older, help them to make some wise choices, help them to see that sometimes those choices they're going to succeed, sometimes they may fail, but help them see that even in the failure, it's a learning experience. We all, even as adults, are going to fail. We all need to learn from those experiences and try again or try something a little different. Confidence. We need to help our children develop confidence. Not just by their successes, but by the things they've tried and been successful at trying with their effort.
I mean, do you tell them you should, do you even use those words, say you should be confident because you did this? I mean, do you describe it in a sentence like that? Or how do you?
You just say, wow, look at what you have accomplished. Okay. You have worked so hard at that, and look what you've accomplished. And then that gives them that feeling.
You lay it out there.
Defined as confidence.
Okay.
But they'll have that feeling, and they'll know the word we have assigned that goes with that feeling, and it'll just give them that confidence. Character. It's very important that we work with our kids to develop character. Little bitty kids kind of know right from wrong initially, but then we either as parents can encourage them down that right road, or we could encourage them often by our actions down the wrong road of character development. So we as parents need to model good character. For example, if you're in the grocery store parking lot, it is easy to not go put your buggy up. But it's also easy to go put your buggy up. So if you don't put your buggy up, and I know that seems like a small thing.
Do you ride in the car with me? Are you hiding in my car? This is like, okay, this is great. But let your child see that you're putting the buggy up and that you're doing the right thing because it's the right things to do. And that's how they develop character. Like litter. Yep. You must be riding along the car with us.
People don't. My husband, I'm very particular about litter, and he'll, like, if he drops something in which he does not drop anything in the grocery store parking lot now, because I have taught him not to. But in the past, he might, and I'm like, don't drop that in the grocery store parking lot. And he's like, well, somebody's job will be to pick it up. And I'm like, no, our job is to put it in the appropriate trash container.
So the kids watch that and they model from that.
They do. And it's amazing what kids learn from us. And you don't even know they're really learning it, but they're learning it and they will retain those things. So just be a good role model. Contribution, that helps kids feel very satisfied. And when I say contribution, if you're thinking, and all people or most people sometimes have those days where they just think, is life really worth it? It's not that they're suicidal or anything, but they're just thinking, what is the meaning of life? Well, one of the best ways to teach our children the meaning of life is to contribute. So let your child see you volunteer at something. Maybe you have a 6-year-old and maybe your neighbor is elderly, or maybe your neighbor's sick. Maybe you walk your 6-year-old to the mailbox and get the neighbor's mail and give it to the neighbor. Just often as you think of little things, they don't even have to be big things. Let your child see what a contribution they're making, and then they'll realize that life is better and the world is a better place because they're in the world. And then if they ever do have a dark day, they'll think, well, wow, I have made contributions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making a difference in this world. So we want our kids to see us do that, and let your child, help you with some small things that you do. Let them, it doesn't have to be a chore, just some little task that they can master. Maybe even setting the table. And I never assign my kids chores. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's more that I just let them help me, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And when you're doing those things with your kids, that gives you lots of opportunity for conversation as well. Then coping, just helping your child cope, which is just developing a positive attitude even when something goes bad, helping them know that there is no one on earth, no matter how rich, no matter who they are, that doesn't have some bad things happen. But we can still, feel bad in the moment, but then get yourself up, cope with it, move forward. Control, we need to help our children learn control, and that helps you develop resiliency. And by control, what I mean is you've got to let your child see that their behavior often determines the outcome of something. Mm-hmm. Now, not always, of course, but you've got to teach this to your child before they're a teenager. They've got to learn that what I do often does control the outcome. Now, let's say your child is nice to everybody, they're kind, but they don't get invited to a party that everybody's invited to. Of course, that was outside their control, but it is still under their control to be nice and kind, and then hopefully they're invited to the next party. But help your child to focus on things that they can control, like, help them see that, they got the A because they studied. They achieved, they're a great basketball player because they shot a free throw, 100 times a day. Let them master some things and see that they do have control over a lot of outcomes in their lives. And then one of the last very important things is for kids to choose their response. We all can respond out of control with great emotionality, or we can have a controlled response to whatever happens to us. So try to help your child as they mature to have a calm response. And we as adults have to model that. I'm sure we've all seen adults very out of control. So we need to be calm when something happens that it's not good. We need to be calm and thoughtful and think through it and try to come up with a solution of how to solve it. That's so important when kids get to be teens and even young adults in college. How are they going to react to some things that happen, maybe to a bad grade or a tough test or whatever. It's learning, okay, so maybe I made a C on that, and I was really trying to make an A, and I needed A, but, this is not the end of the world. Nothing's really ever the end of the world. Yeah. Everything is pretty much temporary that you go through, and it can get better.
But it can feel like it.
It can feel like it, and that's why we never want to negate people's feelings at that moment. We always want to be able to say that hurt really bad, like a breakup with a boyfriend or girlfriend. We've all been through that. That first breakup in high school is very hard. It's very hard. And, but we have to let kids know that, this has happened to a lot of people. I'm so sad it's happened to you. I know how bad it hurts. But basically everybody has that happen. And eventually you will feel better. Maybe not right now, maybe not immediately, but eventually you will feel better, because we all know we do eventually feel better.
Yeah, that's when you do the old line, trust me, it's going to be better.
That's right.
That's right.
It's just a temporary setback.
If people want to get more information on what we've talked about today or reach out to you at AltaPointe, how do they do that?
They can go through our CarePoint, our access to care line, and make an appointment. If you Google AltaPointe.org, you can see how to make an appointment down there and make an appointment. We'd love to see anybody that's going through anything tough and wants some help.
Dr. Sandra Parker, thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you.